Now, as we're building, if you've gotten lost along the way, please feel free to come out here. We are going to start lesson 2. So if you want to start with L2, you can start there, or you can continue building on your My Report page. So we're going to just build from here. What I want to do is explore a little bit more about the measures. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about these amount fields. So what we've looked at here, and I'm sorry, my screen is very small as we look at it. I mean, if I close my hamburger menu, that gives us a little more screen. We are just looking at by business unit, all of the revenue, just total amount. And this is okay, but really what we want to do in Power BI is we want to be looking at this saying, you know, what is this information? Why do we have this number? How did we get there? You know, what is it? So we want to really look at analyzing this data. Couple things that we can do here in Power BI, kind of fun. Users have the ability whenever we give them a visual to change the sort order just by clicking on column headings. So if I want to sort by business unit, I can click on that column heading. Click once, it goes ascending, twice it goes descending. I could do the same thing with my amount columns. So just because I give them the data, they still have that ability to kind of sort and look at the data the way, whatever way they need to. But we want to give them the ability to really analyze this data. So one of the things that we've built out within this quick launch model is we've taken these base measures like revenue actual amount, and we create what we call time-based measures. So this is called a base measure. It's just revenue amount. We'd have to put in filter criteria or somehow limit the data. But we actually build out calculations because we know what you do with analytics and how you want to analyze that data. So we're going to come here in our account measures, and there is a subfolder called revenue. And in this subfolder, you'll see where we actually have created measures that have logic built into them to give us the same number, but broken out over periods of time. So the standard ones that we have are like month to date, quarter to date, year to date, right? MTD, QTD, YTD. Y total is our year total. So this would just give me all 12 months added together. The prior month to date, if I'm looking at the current month of, oh gosh, let's say March, this would show me February. So I've got, those are the priors, or I've got a prior quarter date. If I'm looking at quarter 2, this would show me quarter 1. PY stands for prior year. So typically when you're looking at information, you either want to compare your month to date number with the previous month or with that same month a year prior. So we've already built those out. So when you're building your visual, focus on your visual, all you have to do is say, I want to see my month to date, I want to see my prior month, and I want to see where was I last year. And again, I'm just going to make this a little wider so you can see all of that data kind of populated in here. So you can see at this first business unit, pretty impressive. We're not really far off, you know, month over month or year over year, right? 316, 327, 361, 798, right? But I can see where am I up or down, and then where was I from the previous month. To turn this off, I just uncheck the box. So I could go ahead and look at my data. Now, the way this calendar works, we'll talk about this in a minute. So anyway, hopefully you guys, how are you guys doing? Okay. Okay. So as we're looking at this, we've got our month to date. I want to put on quarter to date and year to date. So I'm just going to go ahead and check those boxes. And now I see my month to date, my quarter to date, my year to date, right? And I've got my prior month, and then I've got this revenue actual month. This number right here is crazy. It has like, it needs some help. It needs some influence. So right now it is just since the beginning of time, since your system went live, what's the revenue within this business unit? There's nothing really limiting that or pulling that number in. These calculations, like I said, they have logic built in them. So what it actually does is it looks at what is the current year that your system is in. So what's our highest year that we've got out there, and it says what's the year total for that year. And there's some logic to determine like basically the max year, the max month, the max quarter for any of those. So if the user doesn't give it any information, it tries to go to the most current. So that's what we're seeing here. So this is, that's what we see here. This is going to be month to date. It's going to be a period 12 for whatever year we're looking at, which is I think 2019 in this demo data that we have. So this would be period 11 and then the quarter to date. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. Again, this is just out of the box, really easy to get us moving, get us going, see the data, be able to pull in those values that we want. So those are our time-based measures that we have out here. And again, we have that for everything. So I've got my revenues, I've got my actual amounts, I've got my budget amounts. I then have variances down here. So we try to anticipate all the different types of calculations that you accountants are doing, and we try to build it all in for you. So with a variance, we give you the variance amount plus a percentage. So you can just pull that right into your visuals. You don't have to try to create those calculations on the fly. Again, as Adam mentioned, we like those calculations to be defined in the model, because that way we know as we build different visualizations, we build the different pictures, the definition of how we came to those calculations or to that number will be consistent across all the visualizations. So you know that if I'm looking at this by region or by division or by business unit, how I'm calculating variance is always the same. Right? So kind of nice and powerful there. But what if we want the user to be able to control what it is that they're looking at? So in here, we want the user to be able to choose which period they're looking at or which month, which year they're looking at. So we're going to build that. What we want to do here is let's go ahead and just clean this up just a little bit. And let's add one more item. So in your revenue, the revenue folder where you see revenue, actual amount, month to date, and we have quarter to date, we have year to date. We're going to take out the prior year month to date for right now. So just uncheck that box to remove it. And we're going to add selected down here. And I'll show you why we're doing this in a minute. We're getting ourselves set up for the next exercise. So selected, you'll notice, is blank. What this is going to do is it's going to allow the user to choose which of these values they want to see. So instead of me building a visual that always shows month to date data or always shows quarter to date or always shows year to date, I could actually use this field where the user can tell me which one of these they want to plug in to that column. Okay, so that's what they call a selected value. So let's go ahead and look at how we're going to do that. Right now, we're going to look at adding what we call slicers for time-based measures. So the slicers are going to allow the user to choose a value that they want. So the first slicer that we're going to add is where the user can choose what this column is going to show.